So we're back to building the modular wall and me trying to work out how to film it best for you. So last time I got the power on, I got the audio going back into the computer, which is over there, and I had a sequencer and a drum module, and that was it. Well, now I have built out a drum machine, or kind of three drum machines in one. So if we look at the top rack here, I have moved Metron, the sequencer, into the middle, and I have put in two Volterra expanders, and we will get to why these are just so amazing in due course. And this is kind of three drum machines. So over here we have samples, and you might think that having samples in a modular system is kind of cheating or a waste of time, and yeah, I would kind of agree with you, but there are occasions when you just need like a 909 hi-hat, or you need a top loop or something just to add to what you're already creating. And this 1010 Bitbox Micro is so powerful and complicated and a bit fiddly and a bit annoying, but it does a fantastic job. And I'm going to start by showing you what this can do on its own. I then have a section here which is drum synthesis. And so these are all analog modules. We have the portal drum, which I connected last time, which I am getting to know and is unbelievably powerful. We have Crater, which is another kick drum machine. We have a DivKid random step, which is sample and hold and is fantastic for providing movement, which is kind of the key to modular, right? You can do a lot of this stuff in the computer, but having an element of random velocity, random volume is what makes things just unbelievable. And then we have Chimera and Kraken, so we have a kind of snare and a sort of hi-hat module. So this is my analog drum machine. This is my sample drum machine. And then over here, I don't know this module very well at all. This is basically a drum machine. So the Erica Synth Sonic Potions, it's a drum machine in one. And again, this is a digital drum machine. So they're all a bit different. So we have analog here, we have samples here, and we have digital here. And the digital is modeling analog sounds, which is, I mean, it sounds amazing. And again, just for making things simple, it actually has three kind of kick drum or tom type sounds. It has a snare, it has a kind of clap cymbal sound, it has a closed hi-hat and an open hi-hat. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drum sounds, and you can just create your own, you can spend time creating your own kits, and then if you just want a sound, you can just plug it in and it just works. Then over here at this end, we have impulse dynamics. This is quite a new module to me, but again, trying to create movement. I'll show you what it can do on hi-hats, and it's just fantastic for creating, kind of movement to a sound. So increase in volume, increase in dynamics, makes things sound fantastic. Then two Bafako modules here. We've got a noise machine. In fact, there's 3 different sections to this noise machine. So you can create very strange sounds. You can create hi-hats, you can create kind of claps, you can create risers, you can create lots of different things. And in combination with the Percore, which is 4 envelopes and VCAs, so you can use it as a mixer, you can use it to choke different sounds, you can use it to create punchy little envelopes that you can then use elsewhere. It's unbelievably useful. Again, it's good for creating dynamics because you can use it to modulate the strength of the envelope. And then at the end, we have a sort of manual, just fun little module where you can record CV. This is the red lights here, me just manually playing with CV levels with my fingers. Unbelievably good. Okay, so this is the first layer of the drum machine completed. We have modulation, we have noise, we have dynamics, we have envelopes, we have a drum machine, we have a sequencer, we have an analog drum machine, and we have samples. And let's take a look in more detail about each section and just see what it can do. I mean, look, to be totally honest, I don't know every single bit of each of these modules in detail. They are unbelievably deep. The Metron is deep, the drum machine, even something simple like the impulse dynamics, you can do so much with it. And that's kind of the beauty of Modular. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on everything straight away. I'm going to set it up, I'm going to play with it, and over time I'm going to learn more about it, and maybe then do a deep dive on some of the individual modules, just for me to learn a bit more, and maybe for you to learn what they can do. Right, let's start with the sample side of things and see what the Bitbox Micro is capable of. You'll be able to see by the stuff around me, this is quite complicated to actually film. I have my GoPro here, which is actually filming the modules. I've got the camera here as well. I've got a light in the background, so hopefully this will all make sense. What we're going to do to start with is we have a clock. This is the sequencer. So you can see we have a clock running. This is actually being driven by these two inputs here, which are going down into a module down here, which is then coming out of my push 3, which is down at the bottom. So that is the master clock, and I'm going to use that to start and stop everything. And there are so many different clocks in here. I've got one clock coming out, and then that is going to get around the whole system. Okay, so that's the first thing. On the Bitbox Micro itself, what you've got is you've got 8 pads here, and on each pad you can put a sample. So what I've done for kicks, claps, open hi-hats and closed hi-hats on these bottom 4 pads is I have gone into Ableton and I have produced a long sample that has 20 or 30 kicks, 20 or 30 claps on each one. And what this clever module can do then is you can slice up that sample. So you can have each different kick and you can select which one you want. So while the rest of the system here is synthesizing drum sounds, this I can have 30 kicks and just flick through them, choose one that I want. So very quickly I can get a sound that I quite like. And if that's what I'm after on that day, that's perfect. Now I'm going to press some wrong buttons on here because it's a bit fiddly, quite deep, and not ideal. It's also touch sensitive. So these cables here are the outputs. So I'm going to try and use orange for audio out. So the 8 pads correspond to these 8 jacks here. So I have a bass sound on this one, and then on these 4 I have the kick, the claps, the closed hats and the open hats. And so at the moment I have a simple pattern from Metron, and you can see that it's producing triggers, but I haven't fed them in here yet. I'll do that in a second. So if we go into the clip sample, you can see here, and it's actually, this screen is touch sensitive, so I can squeeze in each of these is a kick that I can slice up, and I can choose which one of them I want. So if I go in to that, no, it's not there. It's this menu with these little dots here. So that it's quite fiddly, and go to pause, which is position, then scroll again, scroll down here to slice. I have selected slice 15. And if I now put a trigger in, I am hoping we can hear it. So kick here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor kick from track 1, and it should be in here. Okay, so we have a kick. And if I then go to the slice, I'm on slice 18 at the moment, you see here. And you see, just by changing them, I can just go, right, what do I fancy? See, mine's pretty nice. I'll go with 1, it's slightly less boomy for now. And I will just mute that for now so that we don't go completely crazy. Now the same thing will happen with the others. So if I do, I've got claps here on 2. So if I put a different colored trigger in here, you can now see on the screen here that it is being triggered. And the same thing, if we go to that sample, we're playing slice 15, but we don't have to. The reason I've got claps in here is I think claps are quite hard to synthesize, so these are samples of people clapping. Okay, that one sounds pretty good. That sounds like a clap. We're going to, again, mute that just for now so we don't go mad. We'll do closed hats now. And the same thing, I've got this long sample of lots of different... now you can't hear it because I have the mixer muted, which we went through in the first video. Okay, same thing again. Let's choose the slice we like. Okay, that sounds okay. But the other thing you can do with this is, I go in here, I can change the volume, so that sounds a bit loud. I can change the pitch. And I'm filtering it here as well, so we've got a bit of a high pass and a bit of resonance. We can take the resonance off. Can make it a bit more of a... Okay, great. So again, I'm going to just take that off. So a couple of things that we can do with hi-hats with my setup. First thing is, that is pretty... I've got no swing on the timing, by the way. We can obviously add swing. This can add swing, the Metron, the push 3 can add swing too. We can always do that, and will, and in fact should do that. But for now, one of the things I can do with that kind of machine gun hi-hat, well, there are two things. One is I can choose a different sample each time. So that is pretty interesting. So let's do that first. That'll add a certain amount of kind of randomness to it. So that's what these, this Volterra thing here, these are just 4 channels of CV, so different kinds of voltage, and you can send it wherever you want. And you can actually send it quantized, so it can actually form, it can actually sequence an oscillator, which we may do at some point. But if I plug it into this input, I think, and then I will unmute it. Now, if I go to global and then turn this, you can see that you can, this means I'm going from 0 to 5 volts. That's what this button is going to output, and that is fine for this. If I then hold like the first step and turn this, what I've done I'll just turn that down a bit. What I've done is I've set this input here, which is coming from Volterra, to change the step. So rather than me go into the menu and manually try and choose that, by moving this knob, I can change the sound that I'm using. So again, I can just hold it. And select one. Now I've only changed, now this voltage only changes on this step, and then it will hold it until it gets to the next step. So when I was moving the button and the step was over here, nothing was happening until I hit that step again. What I can do is select a more random. So if I press record and then just move this, what I've done is set different voltages for each step, and each of that is selecting a different sample. So if I just turn it up, I mean, that sounds pretty interesting already. You know, that's no swing, but just using different samples, it adds a certain groove to it already. So, I mean, I just love this stuff about Modular. Very quickly, you can get something which is nothing you would do on the computer. I mean, I'm sure you can replicate this, but this is just so easy to do. So I can, for now, I am going to clear out, yes, I'm going to clear out. No, sorry, that is not what I wanted to do. So you press select, and then that shows you where you have recorded these 4 Volterras. So on the first line, it's this one. So I have voltage in every single one of them. And if I just take them all out, then we will only have the one single sample at the start, which will be that one. Okay, so now we're back to that sort of machine gun, pretty unpleasant sort of. Let's finish the setup of the other channels. So if I take channel 4, put it into the open hats. Again, if we go to, so this one has too many slices, so I'm actually going to have to go in through here and sort it out. I hadn't noticed that before I recorded, but if we just go to position, we can manually choose a slice we like. Some of them will be silent. Quite like that sort of crunchy one. So now we have okay. Right. So the other thing that we can do on here is these are the first 4 channels of sequencing. If we go to the next one, on here I have just some triggers on here, and that I have connected to a bass sound. Which, if we undo it, we can hear it here. It's a single note sample, and I haven't bothered changing the notes. We can actually do that. As I said, you can use the Volterra here to change the pitch of that single sample. But for now, and just to show you what it can do, cable trigger. So 5, which is here, going to see how we modular need to be organized, because already you have all these cables getting in the way. So that sounds pretty good already. One of the things you can do, if I just take the volume down, is this has a random feature. So if I hold random and press the track, we bring the kick back in. That sounds pretty good. And again, this sample machine can hold a lot of samples. So if I go, this is called Bass Chicotto. I think it's from a Mini Moog. Yeah, Mini Moog. I can then scroll through the samples. So slightly acid, so let's go with that. You can also, let's just turn that down. You can change the envelope. So you can do quite a lot on here. It actually also has built-in delay and reverb, which I'm not going to use because I'm going to use other modules for that. But then we can bring everything back in and okay, so I think that's basically what I wanted to show you on this. So we have a sequencer, we have voltages here, which we can use to choose which sample we want. We can have random samples, we can have random gates produced by this machine. The final thing I want to do is to show you how you can modulate the volume of a certain track. Right. What I want to do is I want to put the hi-hats through this machine. So if we take the output of the hi-hats, which is channel 3, yes, channel 3, which is currently going down to the mixer down here. So if I put this is the output from, if I put that into the external, so then the hi-hats are now going into here. So if I get the output back into the mixer, we should hear them. This volume, this now changes the volume. So what I want to do is I want to be able to use modulation to adjust the level of those hi-hats. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the random step here, because this output, these are three similar, no, not similar, three, actually they are similar, they're not quite identical. They are three sample on hold circuits. So first I want to give it a trigger, and I want to give it the same trigger that is triggering the hi-hats, which is this pink one in 3. Yeah. So we will mulch that with one of these stackable cables and we'll put it into the trigger here. And what that does is that it tells this to take a sample. So on the left-hand output, this is a unipolar, which we could use just to keep things simple. So this is only going from 0 to 5 volts, and on the right-hand side, it is going from +5 to -5 volts. On the left-hand side, it uses an internal noise circuit in order to take a sample. And if I take this output here, I'm going to have to use an orange one, which is supposed to be for audio, but I don't have a long enough cable. If I take that, put it into this CV modulated level. So what it's doing is that this is at 0, and every time it gets a trigger, it is taking a sample and adding it on to this level. So it's only going up. So it's going from 0, and you can hear some hits. If I move it up though, you can hear how we get sort of accents. This was just the robotic machine before. I think if I... Okay, that's with no modulation. And I think it's actually, I think I will do this, it's actually more powerful if you go up and down. So you can set a midpoint and then the volume can go up and down around here. And for that, you need to input your own noise source, which I do have in my system over on the right-hand side here, which may be just out of shot. The Bafako noise plethora, but it is just a noise, well, it's an unbelievable noise machine. And I'm going to take the bipolar you can hear how you immediately get a groove, and I can actually change the noise signal on this machine. This changes the amount of modulation, it's an attenuator, so no dynamics. Full dynamics, probably too much because it's kind of turning them off, so maybe halfway. Okay. I absolutely love this dynamics. Okay, so I think that's going to be the end of part one. I wanted to show how quickly things get complicated, how unbelievably expressive modular can be with some just basic samples. I think we'll just turn that off. And I haven't really done anything complicated on the sequencing, but we've got different samples, different sounds. We've got choosing random sounds. We've got modulating the volume of a very robotic hi-hat so that we can get something just great. I mean, is it complicated? Well, there's a lot of wires involved, but it's not really complicated. I mean, I could spend a long time just messing around with this. Actually, before we go, there is one more thing which is quite cool. Let me just choose a slightly less annoying bass sound. Okay, that's better. All right, we'll cut out the scrolling there. Right, this is a Juno 106 bass sound. Okay, just muting sounds here. Right, so one of the other things this machine can do is it can do fills. So if I take these out of the way, if you press this fill FX button, you get to this. Actually, sorry, let me just get everything in. So for performance, you can mute tracks. So the top row is mute, kick. Let's have those hi-hats. And then this second row is the interesting one. So this is the sort of fills, 16th fills. Won't do very much. Now I've excluded the kick and the bass from the fills. So that's 30 seconds. That 16th won't do anything. 8th. Nice. And then let's bring everything in. Okay, so what you do is you hold one of these buttons and it has pre-programmed patterns and you can override them, put your own patterns in. It's got triplets, it's got different divisions, and it's got different rhythms. If I bring in everything, and you can exclude certain sounds, so I don't want the kick to be repeated at 30-second notes, it would sound totally ridiculous. So I've excluded these two lights here as track 1 and track 5. Track 5 is the bass. Oh, I've muted them here now. So we've got everything in here. 30 seconds. Okay, brilliant. That sounds great. But then these ones. Bit of triplets. Oh, I mean, if you're just messing around trying to get something which you just wouldn't be able to program on a computer. Bit of triplet action. I really like that. That is it, I think. There's lots more you can do with Metron. There's lots more you can do with everything, but I'm going to move on and I'm going to go through the analog section and see what we can create using those. And you'll see that there are so many more jacks here that you can tweak and change things that you can get some totally crazy sounds. So let's do that next. Okay, we'll call it a day there.